The royal ship broke apart in the sky like a silver bird struck by lightning. Princess Seralia, daughter of the High Queen of the Velari Empire, sat frozen in her seat, her glowing eyes wide with shock. Alarms screamed, lights flashed red. Deep voice echoed through the ship. Critical damage. Impact in 30 seconds. Seralia gripped the armrests as the floor tilted. Her guards were already gone, either dead or thrown from the crash. Smoke filled the room. The once beautiful royal cruiser now spun out of control over a jungle planet far from any Velari base. This can't be happening, she whispered. She was on a secret peace mission, sent alone to speak with a distant world. No one knew where. No one could help her. Then the ship hit the jungle. Branches smashed through windows. The ship crashed with a terrible scream of metal. Everything shook. Seralia's world went black. 3 hours later, Eli Grayson, a human scout with the Terran Search Corps, walked through the thick alien jungle. His armor was scratched and his face was sweaty. He had been following a distress signal that wasn't even from Earth technology. The beacon was Velari alien and royal. He had no idea who he would find, but he was a scout. He always checked. That's what made him different. He cut through thick vines with his plasma knife, watching for beasts, poison plants, and traps. Then he saw the wreckage. The silver hull was bent and smoking. Sparks flickered from broken wires. One of the engines still hissed. Eli moved carefully, checking each corner with his rifle ready. Then he saw her. She lay half covered by branches and metal, her skin glowing faintly gold in the shadows. She wasn't just any alien, she was beautiful, elegant, and clearly someone important. Her armor was decorated with crystals. A small crown rested on her forehead, but her leg was bleeding badly and she wasn't moving. Eli dropped his rifle. He moved fast. Carefully, he knelt beside her and checked for a pulse, still alive. He took off his helmet and leaned in to hear her breathing. Suddenly, her eyes snapped open, sharp and shining like twin moons. "Don't touch me," she hissed in her native tongue, but Eli's translator chip understood and echoed it in his ear. He froze, stunned. "You're injured," he said calmly. "If I don't help you, you'll die." "I'd rather die with honor than be touched by a human," she growled, trying to push him away. Eli looked around. Smoke, fires, predators circling. This planet didn't care about honor. It would eat her bones before the stars rose. "Too bad," he said. "I'm helping anyway." And before she could protest again, he lifted her carefully into his arms. She gasped, not just from pain but from shock. "You dare?" she whispered, but she was too weak to fight him. Eli carried her through the thick trees to a small clearing. There, he set her down on a patch of moss and quickly pulled out his med kit. He sprayed a healing foam on her wound and wrapped her leg with a clean bandage. She kept staring at him, her face full of fury and confusion. "You are a lowborn," she said through gritted teeth. "A Terran, you shouldn't touch me." Eli glanced at her, tired and annoyed. "You're welcome," he muttered. For the next hour, she sat in silence, her pride keeping her from saying a word. Eli ignored her attitude and started building a small shelter from leaves and parts of her wrecked ship. Night was coming fast. The sounds of the jungle changed, deeper growls, closer footsteps, unseen eyes watching from the shadows. Eli made a fire. He offered her a ration bar, but she turned her face away. "Suit yourself," he said, and bit into his own. That night, while the fire crackled between them, she finally spoke again. "You risked your life to find me." "Why?" "Because someone needed help," he replied simply. "I am Velari royalty," she said proudly. "I don't care," Eli answered. Silence again. Then, from far in the trees, a roar. It was deep, hungry, and getting closer. Eli stood up fast, weapon ready. Seralia's eyes widened. "That sound." "It's a razor fang," she whispered. "We must run." "You can't run," he said. "Your leg is still bad?" She looked terrified for the first time. "Then we die." Eli grinned. "Not today." He tossed more fuel into the fire, making it flare high. He raised his rifle and stepped forward into the jungle shadows. Behind him, Seralia stared at the back of this strange human. He didn't care about her title. He didn't ask for thanks. And now, he was going to fight a monster for her. for the first time in her life. The highborn alien girl didn't know what to say. The fire crackled between them, but the warmth didn't reach her heart. Princess Saralia sat straight, her chin high, her glowing violet eyes fixed on the jungle beyond. She refused to speak. She refused to look at the human. Eli sat across from her, cleaning his blade with a dirty cloth. He didn't care about her silence. He was used to it. Most aliens either hated him or feared him. This one, she just looked insulted to be alive. Thanks to a human. Eat something, Eli said, sliding a ration bar toward her across the moss. I am not an animal, she said coldly, her voice sharp like broken glass. I will not eat your dirt food, Eli smirked and shrugged. Suit yourself, Princess Fancy Pants, she flared at the nickname. You mock royalty? No, he said, chewing. I mock people who think titles matter more than survival. The jungle around them made strange noises, buzzing, clicking, whispering. Things moved in the trees. The fire flickered as something large passed by just out of sight. Soralia's stomach growled loudly. She didn't move. Her pride held her. Still. But 10 minutes later, when Eli wasn't looking, she reached for the ration bar with 2 fingers, like it was poisoned, and took the smallest possible bite. It didn't taste awful. She hated that it didn't single quotes. Eli got up and walked to the edge of the camp, scanning the forest with a small sensor. His HUD showed movement, something big. Something not afraid of fire. We have company, he said calmly. Sel stiffened. What kind of company? The kind that wants to eat us, he said. She grabbed a small blade from her belt and tried to stand. Her wounded leg gave out. She hissed and collapsed into the moss. Eli turned fast and helped her sit up. She tried to slap his hand away, but he ignored it. I don't need, she started. You're not winning this one with pride, Eli snapped. Stay low, I'll handle it. He walked toward the noise. The trees shook. Something massive crashed through the underbrush, thick, scaly, and glowing red in the dark. A jungle predator 8 feet tall, claws like sickles, mouth full of glass-sharp teeth. The razor fang. It locked eyes with Eli. A low growl rumbled through the air. Eli raised his rifle. Easy, big guy. It charged. He fired once, twice, then jumped out of the way as the beast slammed into the fire pit, scattering embers and burning logs. Ser screamed as the flames leapt near her, but rolled away fast. Eli stabbed the beast in the side with his plasma blade. The monster howled, blood sizzling on its armor-like skin. It swung its claws and caught Eli's shoulder. Tearing through armor and flesh, he grunted and fell. The razor fang loomed over him, jaws open. Then something unbelievable happened. A blast of bright light struck the creature's head. It screamed and stumbled. Serl stood behind it, one hand outstretched, her crown glowing. Her race's energy powers, rare among nobles, had awakened. The creature turned toward her now. Furious, she faltered, her body trembling. The glow faded. She was too weak. Eli pushed himself up, bleeding, and leapt forward with one final strike driving his blade deep into the beast's chest. The razor fang collapsed. Dead. Eli dropped beside it, breathing hard. Soralia stared at him, frozen. He looked up at her, blood on his face, and gave a crooked smile. Still think I'm just dirt, princess? She didn't answer. He limped to her side and helped her sit back down. This time, she didn't stop. The fire was gone. Only dim coals remained. The jungle watched in silence. Soralia looked at the dead razor fang, then at Eli. You could have left me. Could have, he said. You're bleeding. Yeah, he nodded. So are you. She looked down at her leg. The bandage was soaked again. Eli opened his kit and began to rewrap it. She watched him quietly now. His hands were rough, his eyes tired. But he moved gently, like he didn't care who she was, only that she lived. No one's ever touched me like this before, she whispered. Because no one's ever needed to, he said, without looking at her. Until now. She said nothing more. But for the first time since her crash, Soralia wasn't angry anymore. She was confused, and afraid that confusion meant something was changing. The jungle was quiet now, like it was holding its breath. The razor fang was dead. Its body lay near the cold ashes of the ruined fire, but the danger hadn't passed. In this wild alien forest, quiet didn't mean safety. It meant something worse. Might be watching. Eli sat beside the tree line, his shoulder wrapped in a temporary patch, blinking against the pain. He didn't complain. He never did. Years of being alone on missions had taught him how to suffer in silence. Saralia sat across from him, her arms wrapped around her knees. Her silver-white hair was tangled. Her face, usually proud and perfect, was streaked with dirt and dried blood. Neither of them spoke, not yet. The next morning came slow and gray. Mist floated between the trees. The smell of damp earth and burnt fur filled the air. Eli rebuilt the fire with shaking hands. He caught her watching him, not with disgust, but with something else. Curiosity, confusion. He looked up, she looked away. He chuckled softly. You gonna tell me your name now, or do I keep calling you Princess Fancy Pants? She blinked, surprised. Saralia, she said at last, her voice quiet. Eli nodded. Saralia, nice name. She didn't say thank you, but for the first time, she didn't look at him like he was filth. Hours passed. Eli offered her food again. This time, she didn't pretend to refuse. She took it, ate in silence, and studied the strange wrapping like she'd never seen human rations before. He noticed how she winced when she moved. How's your leg? Burns, she admitted. But I can walk a little. That's good. He said, because we can't stay here. She looked up. Why not? There was a beacon on your ship, right? Even after the crash? Yes. Then it's not just rescue teams who might have seen it. Scavengers, slavers, maybe worse. We move at first light. She nodded slowly. For once, she didn't argue. That night, they camped inside a half-buried stone ruin Eli found nearby a forgotten building swallowed by trees and vines. It had a cracked ceiling and old carvings on the walls, glowing faintly with ancient alien light. Inside, it was warm, safe, quiet. Eli rested against the wall, his rifle nearby. Saralia sat close to the fire, hands outstretched. It was strange. To her, not the fire, but the silence between them. The calm, back home, she was surrounded by noise, servants, schedules, demands. Now, just her, a human, and the stars. She looked at Eli. His eyes were closed. His chest rose and fell slowly. Then she saw the scar on his neck. Is that from another mission? She asked suddenly. He opened one eye. Surprised, she spoke first. Yeah, he said. Pirates on Raxes 5 got too close. Why do you do this? She asked. Risk your life for others? He shrugged. Because I want someone to do the same for me. Saralia lowered her gaze. That answer didn't exist in her world. Her people helped only those of equal status. No one risked anything unless it gained them power. Strange, she whispered. Is it? He said, staring into the fire. Or is it just human? She had no answer. Later, when the fire was dying down, Saralia lay on her side. Eyes open, she stared at Eli's silhouette, his armor dented, face calm, even in sleep. She didn't understand this man. He treated her like an equal. Even after she insulted him, he saved her life, but didn't ask for reward. And when he touched her, it wasn't like the stories warned. It didn't feel dirty. It didn't feel wrong. It felt warm. Safe. She turned over quickly, facing the wall. Her heart was beating too fast. What was this feeling? The jungle was still, but inside the ancient ruins something had shifted, not in the world, but inside her. And she didn't know how to stop it. *SRL awoke to the soft sound of birds, strange birds, with glowing wings that shimmered in the early light. The jungle was calm for now. The air smelled of wet moss and smoke from the dying fire. Eli was already awake, crouched near the ruin's edge, scanning the tree line with tired eyes. You didn't sleep? She asked. Didn't need to, he said, though his face told the truth. She sat up slowly, her leg aching less than before. A good sign. She noticed the way he kept checking the sky, his hand hovering near his rifle. Something was wrong. What is it? She asked. Eli didn't answer right away. He pointed to the faint trail of a new ship high above them, one that had just entered the atmosphere. It glowed red as it descended slowly. That's not a rescue ship, he said. SRL. froze, her blood turned cold. No. She whispered, "It's him." She didn't need to explain. Eli saw it in her face, the fear, the hatred. "Who is it?" he asked. "Lord Vernok," she said, voice shaking. "My cousin." "My mother's nephew. He's been after my throne. For years, if I'm dead, he becomes the next heir." Eli frowned. "You think he shot you down?" "I don't think," she said bitterly. "I know." She explained everything, how she was secretly sent on a peace mission, how only a few royal members knew her route, how Vernok had always smiled in public, but his eyes never hid the hunger for power. She had no doubt he followed the distress beacon. Not to save her, but to finish the job. Eli stood up and checked his gear. "Then we can't stay here. We move now." Saralia blinked. "But where? My people won't trust human channels, and I can't return without proof of his betrayal." "Then we reach the Terran outpost," he said. "I send out your story. Footage. Testimony. Once the truth is out, your people can't ignore it." She hesitated. "You'd help me? Even now?" He looked at her seriously. "You're not just some royal anymore. You're a survivor. And I don't abandon survivors." Her throat tightened. She turned away before he could see her expression. She didn't deserve this man's kindness, but he kept giving it anyway. The journey was hard. They traveled through thick jungle, across rivers with strange glowing fish and hanging roots that tried to grab them. Eli helped her walk, sometimes carrying her when the terrain grew too steep. He didn't complain. Not once. Even when his wound reopened and bled down his arm, even when he ran out of painkillers. Serao wanted to speak, to say something that could ease the guilt rising inside her, but she couldn't find the words. On the fourth day, they reached a wide river. They had to cross. Eli used fallen trees to build a makeshift raft. Saralia watched from the shore, her leg weak but healing. The moment the raft was ready, she stepped on carefully. The water rushed fast and cold around them. Halfway across, the current grew stronger. A hidden whirlpool sucked one corner of the raft down. Eli slipped. He was pulled under. "Eli!" she screamed. Without thinking, she jumped in after him. The water swallowed her instantly. Darkness, pressure, no air, then arms around her waist. Eli kicked upward, holding her. He pushed her to the surface, gasping. She choked, her fingers clinging to his shoulders. Why did you save me again?" he coughed, spitting water. "You already asked me that." "Give me a better answer this time," she demanded. His voice was tired but strong. "Because your life matters." She stared into his eyes, her heart hammering. No one had ever said those words to her like that. Not even her own blood. They pulled themselves onto the far riverbank, soaked and breathless. As Eli collapsed onto the sand, Saralia reached out and touched his face, for once, not out of pride, not out of anger, but out of something much more confusing. "I'm not supposed to feel this," she whispered. Eli didn't speak, but his hand gently rested over hers, and for a moment, even with the enemy closing in, she forgot she was a princess. She was just a girl who had finally been seen. The wind howled through the jungle ruins like a warning. Eli lay under a broken arch, his chest rising and falling slowly. His skin was pale, his bandage was soaked red. The river crossing had taken more from him than he admitted. Saralia sat beside him, watching him breathe too shallow, too slow. Her fingers trembled as she touched the edge of his armor. He had bled for her, fought monsters for her, carried her when she couldn't walk, and still never asked for anything. Not her name, not her title, not even her thanks. She had been taught that humans were selfish, dirty, and low. But now this human's touch haunted her, not because it shamed her, but because it changed her. The old ruin around them was quiet. Faint carvings glowed on the stone walls, symbols of a long-lost race. Saralia had seen ancient places before, but never like this. This one felt sacred, like it was meant to shelter broken people, and maybe she was one of them now. She dipped a cloth in clean water and began cleaning the dried blood from Eli's forehead. He flinched, then opened his eyes. "You're still here," he whispered. "I'm not leaving you," she said softly. He tried to sit up, but she gently pushed him down. "For once," she added, "let someone care for you." He smiled weakly. Didn't think you knew how, she smirked. Neither did I. For hours, she stayed at his side, using her alien energy to warm the ruin, to block out the wind, to hide them from sensors. As night fell, they huddled close. She didn't pull away when his hand brushed hers. Instead, she closed her fingers around his small simple. But for Saralia, it was everything. Then the sound came, a sharp hiss, boots on stone, voices. Outside. Not human. Not friendly. Lord Vernak's hunters had arrived. Soraya's eyes widened. Her body went cold. They found us, she whispered. Eli grabbed his rifle and pushed himself to his feet, even as blood dripped from his side. No way they're taking you. But you can't even stand, she hissed. Doesn't matter. I'll hold them long enough for you to run. Soralia stood and glared at him. Double quotes. No, you saved me too many times. It's my turn. Outside, the hunters moved carefully through the trees, cloaked in black armor, eyes glowing. One of them held a tracker. Signals inside the ruin, he said. Target confirmed. The girl is alive, another hissed. Kill the human first. Then bring her to Lord Vernak. They stepped closer. Until a blinding flash burst from the ruin's entrance. Soralia walked out slowly, arms glowing with white-blue power. Her eyes burned with rage. I am Princess Soralia of the Valari. Throne, she shouted, and I will not be hunted like prey. The hunters raised their weapons too late. She unleashed a wave of raw energy, blasting two of them into the air. The third turned and tried to run, but Eli limped forward and shot him in the leg. He dropped, screaming. Silence returned. Smoke curled through the trees. Eli collapsed again. Breath ragged, Soralia ran to him, dropping to her knees. You fool, she said, tears in her eyes. Why do you always throw yourself in front of danger? Habit, he joked. She laughed softly, then leaned down and pressed her forehead against his. You touched me once without permission, she whispered, and I hated you for it. He opened his eyes. I remember. But now, she sighed, voice breaking. I can't stop thinking about that touch. I can't stop wanting it. His hand reached for hers again, and this time, she pulled him into her arms. No more resistance. No more pride. Just two broken souls finding warmth in the firelight. Asterisk. The jungle burned behind them. Ash fell like snow as smoke curled into the sky. The ruin where they had taken shelter was now half destroyed. And yet they stood alive, together and surrounded by the bodies of their would-be killers. Eli could barely stay on his feet. Blood soaked his side and his vision blurred. But he refused to fall. Soralia stood beside him, holding him up with one arm, her other hand glowing with faint light. Her once pristine armor was cracked, her skin streaked with dust and blood. They had won, but it didn't feel like a victory. Not yet. More will come. Eli whispered. I know, Soralia said. My cousin will send others when these don't return. We don't have long. No, she said, her voice shaking. We don't. Eli coughed, pain shooting through him. She turned to him quickly, eyes wide. You need a med station, a real one. Not a jungle bandage kit. I've had worse. Liar, she said, holding his face. He chuckled weakly. Maybe. They found a hidden cave not far from the ruins, deep, cool, safe for now. Inside, Soralia lit small stones with her energy, making the walls glow like starlight. Eli collapsed onto a flat rock, groaning. She knelt beside him. I need to take off your armor to treat you, she said softly. He nodded. Bit by bit, she undid the straps. Blood soaked through the inner layers. She peeled back the material carefully, revealing the deep wound on his ribs. It pulsed with angry red. She didn't flinch. Instead, she pressed her glowing hands over the injury. Her energy flowed into him, gentle but strong. He gasped in pain. She didn't stop. Minutes passed like hours. Sweat ran down her brow. Her hands trembled. But slowly, the bleeding stopped. The flesh began to knit. Eli's breathing calmed. When it was done, she collapsed beside him. Exhausted. Their hands touched again, and this time neither pulled away. Why? He asked softly. Why risk so much for me? Soralia turned her head toward him. My people told me humans were wild, dangerous, inferior, but you... She paused. You gave without asking. Protected without demanding. Bled for someone who insulted you, he smiled faintly. You did insult me a lot. She laughed, a real, light laugh. And now, she whispered, I want to protect you too. Then, without a word, she reached into the pouch at her waist. She pulled out a small, glowing stone, smooth and black, pulsing faintly with blue light. Eli raised an eyebrow. What's that? It's called a bindstone, she said. It links two lives, a royal tradition. Meant only for those we trust with everything. He stared at it. You sure? Saralia nodded. If I fall, you'll feel it. If you fall, I will too. Eli hesitated, then reached out. Their fingers touched the stone together, a flash of light. A hum of energy. Something ancient and sacred passed between them. At that exact moment, across the sky, 3 Terran rescue mechs landed in the jungle nearby. Saralia and Eli looked up, hearing the distant roar of engines and the beep of scanners. Help had come, but so had something else. Now bound by fire, blood, and the bindstone. They were no longer just survivor and rescuer. They were something deeper, something dangerous, something unstoppable. The jungle was behind them now. The danger, the ruins, the blood, all of it left beneath the trees and smoke. A human dropship hovered above the clearing, kicking up wind and leaves. The doors opened. Medics rushed out. Eli didn't fight them. This time, he let them carry him onto the stretcher, his body too weak to argue. His eyes stayed open, though, searching for her. Seral walked beside him, head held high, but not with pride. With purpose. With something softer than royalty ever taught her. As the human ship lifted into the sky, she didn't look back at the jungle once, because what mattered to her now lay ahead. 2 days later. Eli woke in a medical dome on the Terran border world. Fresh sheets, a clean bed, beeping monitors, and her, Saralia, sat by his side, dressed in a simple gray robe. No crown, no armor. Just her. She noticed his eyes open and smiled, a real one, not forced. You lived, she said. Wasn't planning to die, he joked, voice rough. She reached out, gently took his hand. Still reckless. You stayed, he said, surprised. Where else would I go? He blinked. Home, the throne, your people. She shook her head slowly. Not yet. Not until the truth spreads. With the help of Terran tech, she had already uploaded her memories to the Galactic Channel, footage of her cousin's betrayal, Eli's rescue. The hunters. Her message was simple. I am alive and I see differently now. The galaxy listened. Seral, yeah. Sat with Eli every day during recovery. They talked. Sometimes about the war. Sometimes about old dreams. Sometimes about nothing at all. And one night, while the stars spun slowly above the dome, she asked the question she had buried deep inside her since the jungle. Would it shame you if a highborn Velari chose to stay with a human? Eli blinked. Is that what you want? She nodded. Not because I owe you. Not because you saved me, he smiled. Then no shame at all. She leaned closer, forehead touching his, the same way she once did back in the ruin. But this time, it wasn't confusion. It was choice. Weeks later, when she finally stood before her people again, they gasped, not because she returned alive, but because she did not bow to the court. She stood beside a human, held his hand, and said, This is Eli Grayson, and he is more noble than half the royal blood in this room. There was silence, then whispers, then something no one expected. They bowed, not just to her, but to him. Eli never asked to be honored. He never wanted fame. But as the stars turned and the story spread, his name became legend. And Saralia? She no longer walked like a girl raised above others. She walked like a woman who had once fallen and been caught by hands she was raised to fear. Now, she never wanted to let them go. Asterisk.